Okay, let's get right to it. You know those beautiful expensive seats in a new car? Ever wonder why they start looking old way too fast? Well, we're about to pull back the curtain on one of the most frustrating things for any car owner. Think of this as your insider's guide to what's really going on, just beneath the surface.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You drive that brand new car off the lot and the seats are just perfect. They're tight, they're supportive, they feel premium. But then you fast forward, maybe just a few months, and you start to see it. Wrinkles, a little bit of sagging. It just looks used, you know? And you've barely even broken it in. It's an incredibly common and incredibly annoying problem.
So what's your first thought? You probably blame the materials, right? They must have used cheap leather, or this foam's total garbage. And hey, sometimes that's part of it. But the real culprit, the thing that's really going on, is usually something a lot more subtle. It's a fundamental fight happening right under your nose. Or, well, under you.
That's right. The problem isn't just one bad part. It's a relationship problem. There's a constant battle going on between the seat cover, let's call that the skin, and the foam cushion underneath it, the flesh. And believe me, when these two don't get along, your beautiful car seat is the one that pays the price. So let's dive into the heart of this fight. It all boils down to this one tiny but absolutely crucial number that makes all the difference. This is what separates a seat that looks amazing for years from one that starts falling apart in months. This is the 3% secret.
So, first things first, let's properly introduce our two fighters here. On one side, you've got the cover, the skin. This is all the stuff you see and touch, the fancy leather, the fabric, the cool stitching. And on the other side, you've got the foam, the flesh. This is the unsung hero of the whole operation, the big block of polyurethane that actually gives the seat its shape and all of its support.
You know, the best way to picture this relationship is to think of a girdle and a body. Seriously, the foam is the body, right? And the cover is the girdle. Now, for a girdle to do its job, it has to be just a little bit smaller than the body it's trying to shape. It needs that constant tension to create that smooth, tight look.
And right there, that's the secret number. That's the squeeze. Engineers will intentionally, on purpose, design the seat cover to be about 3 to 5% smaller than the foam cushion it's wrapping. It's a technique called pre-tension, and it's the reason a brand new car seat looks so perfect and wrinkle-free. It's basically manufactured tightness. But here's the thing. When that secret squeeze is off, even by a little bit, it's a complete disaster. If the cover is too thin and the foam is too hard, you get a seat that feels like a park bench. No fun. If the cover doesn't stretch enough but the foam is super bouncy, you're going to get permanent wrinkles and cracks. And if that 3 to 5% number is just plain wrong, well, the seat might look fantastic in the showroom, but it'll be a saggy, wrinkly mess in 3 months.
Now, the cover already has a pretty tough job, right? But it gets way more complicated because the foam isn't just a lifeless block. You should think of the foam as having a personality, or maybe a list of demands. Engineers actually call them the foam's bad tempers, and the cover has to deal with every single one of them perfectly.
So the cover has to put up with all the foam's little quirks, like stretchability. Can the cover handle being pulled and stretched every single time you sit down without breaking? What about friction? Does it slide around too much or grip so tight it bunches up? And then you've got things like breathability and hardness. Each one of these is a potential point of failure if that skin and flesh aren't a perfect match.
Let's just pick one of these tempers to really see what's going on. How about breathability? Okay, there's this huge myth out there that for ventilated seats, all you need is a big, powerful fan to blow cool air on your back. Nope, that is completely wrong.
The truth is, it's a 3-part system, and all 3 parts have to work. 1, the cover has to have holes in it, right? It needs to be perforated. 2, the foam underneath has to have channels molded right into it so the air can actually pass through. And 3, and this is where everyone messes up, those holes and those channels have to line up perfectly. Because think about it. If they don't align, it doesn't matter how big or powerful your fan is. You're just blowing air directly into a solid wall of foam. It's not going anywhere. This is a perfect example of how the skin and the flesh absolutely have to work together as a team. If they don't, a future you paid for is totally useless.
Okay, so now that you know all this, let's look at a real-world cautionary tale. This is what happens when a car company gets obsessed with the skin and completely ignores the flesh. Let's call it Collapsegate.
So here are the facts of the case. The product was a luxury SUV, and it was advertised with this beautiful, super expensive Napa leather. But just 3 months after it launched, customers started complaining like crazy about terrible sagging and wrinkling. So what was the motive here? Well, the company spent a ton of money on the leather, but then tried to save a few bucks by using cheap, low-density foam that just wasn't strong enough for the job.
And here's the thing. The root cause was a total mismatch. That soft premium leather needed a strong, firm, high-density foam to hold its shape. But instead, that cheap foam underneath just collapsed under pressure. The beautiful leather had nowhere to go, so it just wrinkled and sagged over this deformed mess. It was all looks with absolutely no backbone.
And what was the result of them trying to save a little cash? A massive, multi-million-dollar recall to replace the foam in every single car they sold. They tried to save a tiny bit of money on the one part nobody sees, and it ended up costing them a fortune, not to mention destroying their reputation.
All right, so this is all great information, but how can you, as a buyer, standing in a showroom, spot a bad relationship between the skin and the flesh before you sign on the dotted line? Well, there's actually a super simple trick you can use to see right through the sales pitch.
It's called the 2-second palm test, and it's dead simple. Here's what you do. First, press down and press firmly on the center of the seat cushion with your palm totally flat. Second, pull your hand away quickly. And third, just watch. Pay close attention to what that seat cover does.
So what are you looking for? You want to see a quick, smooth recovery. If that surface bounces back to perfectly flat in under 2 seconds with 0 wrinkles, that's a fantastic sign. It means the cover and foam are working in perfect harmony. If it's kind of slow or leaves a few little wrinkles, it's okay. But if that dent stays there or the wrinkles don't go away, that is a huge red flag. Run away.
The amazing thing about this little test is that it tells you the truth about the dynamic between the foam and the cover. It tells you about the tension, the foam's resilience, how well they're matched. It's real-world data that you will never, ever find on a sales brochure or some spec sheet.
So the ultimate takeaway here is pretty simple. When it comes to car seats, that beautiful leather is only half the story. The real secret to long-lasting quality is hidden underneath. So the next time you're out car shopping, don't just trust the ad, trust your palm.